The Josh Allen handshake that you finally did, you were hanging in there. That was some complicated stuff.
Look, you know what was the funniest thing, Mike, for those who have seen this? Oh, Josh got Peter. Oh, he got him good. And let me just tell you something. Josh Allen is a humorous dude, shall we say. And so after that thing happened last year, he was determined that we were going to do something kind of fun. And so we came into it this year and just sort of figured it out. But anyway, it's all in good fun. He's a good sport. And I think the one other thing about Buffalo, Mike, and obviously I was in Buffalo after we spoke last week. But the one interesting thing is, I mean, just envision this. 9 months ago, no one in America had any idea who Damar Hamlin was. And now you go to Buffalo Bills training camp and they're co-stars. Damar Hamlin and Josh Allen are the two megastars in the Buffalo Bills universe right now. And there's tremendous amount of support, love for Damar Hamlin. And he's returning it all, by the way. And look, I wrote this week that, I mean, it's obviously likely that he makes the 53-man roster. But it's not a sport to be emotional. Just remember, after David Tyree made the Velcro helmet catch for the New York Giants, the Giants did not employ him after that day. He had to go try to find a job. He went to Baltimore, did not make the team. So the last catch that David Tyree made in the National Football League was the helmet catch. So it's not exactly when you were living on the edge of the roster and they bring in Taylor Rapp, you never know what might happen in Buffalo, but I found that interesting.
Yeah, I've seen projected depth charts, Peters, where he's a third stringer. And if you're a third stringer on a projected depth chart, you are in the range of guys who may not be there. And the fame that has come in the aftermath of the near tragedy, that could help him, I assume. But we know how these general managers think. Nameless, faceless. You're assessing what this individual can do for your team. And you got 90 guys in camp. 37 are going to go one way or the other between now and the end of the month.
Right.
And you got to make that objective assessment, and they do it all the time. It's going to be tough to do with Damar Hamlin if he's right on that edge of make it or don't make it.
But just keep one thing in mind now. Okay, so in Buffalo, to me, the only thing that really stands in the way of him making the roster is just remember, this week was the first week in 30 weeks that he hit another human being in a football game. The last time he did that, he almost died. So, Sean McDermott is incredibly supportive of Damar Hamlin. Brandon Beane, the GM, they're all supportive. They love the guy. But we've got to just see this and see how it plays out in the next 3 weeks, because he's going to have many opportunities to show that he can be back being exactly the player who he was, who when Micah Hyde went down last year, they didn't lose a lot in the secondary. He played well. They just have to see if he can do that again.
And here's the other reality too, Peter. The farther down the depth chart you are, the more special teams you play at a time when they're concerned about how dangerous the kick return is. They're concerned about punt return. Do you want Damar Hamlin out there for these high-impact collisions where everybody's going to be holding their breath? I mean, there's what happened in January in the aftermath of it. It can cut one way or the other for him. It could be something where, if we're going to view this as a business, as a giant machine of interchangeable football parts, it's one extra factor that maybe a guy doesn't want to worry about if he's the GM of the team. And then you've got the factor of everybody loves him. It's good for business to have him on the team. But is it good for the football team? I mean, these are, thank God we don't have to make these decisions. But Brandon Beane and company are going to have to make maybe some tough decisions if Damar Hamlin is in that zone of potentially not making the final 53. All right, Odell Beckham Jr., I assume, will make the final 53 with the Baltimore Ravens. How do you think he's going to fit with this team after not playing at all in 2022?
Mike, he's in his 30s now. He's 30 years old. And he's never played a football game. He hasn't played a football game in the last 18 months. I met with him the other day in Baltimore. And Mike, I really think that Odell Beckham Jr. has changed a lot. And he was, as I'm going to write, he struck me as 30 going on 45. He has entered a team now that needs him to be not just a player, but they need him to take Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Devin Duvernay, their young receivers, take them under his wing. And he said, the one thing I really like about this role that I've found is that I like listening. And he said, I think to be a leader, you got to be a great listener. Because everybody's story is different. But the one other thing he said, Mike, that I found totally fascinating, because we don't really think about this. First of all, I must say, I will say, he's dyed his hair purple. So, he's right in the groove with the Ravens. But the one thing I found really interesting is he said, you have no idea what our game plan was that day in the Super Bowl against the Bengals. He said, that was going to be my all-time game. He said 15 catches. I said, what, 200 yards? He goes, no, 250. He said, I was going to explode that day. And now, midway through the second quarter, obviously, he's got 2 catches for 52, including a touchdown, and then it's over, and he's got to go get surgery. But look, Mike, the big question around the Ravens now is how much more does he have left? Can he be that explosive player? Will he love football the way he once did? And I think the early indications are all positive, but in the immortal words of Bill Parcells, they don't sell insurance for this kind of stuff.
Well, the other side of it, too, they're installing a new offense with Todd Monken in place of Greg Roman. And ostensibly, they're going to throw it around more. They've got more weapons. They added Zay Flowers. They plan to pass more with Lamar Jackson they have. But, I'll believe it when I see it, because Lamar Jackson is still one hell of a running threat. And they've got some good running backs. And is Odell Beckham Jr. going to get the ball as much as he wants? He's got some fairly makeable incentives in his contract, but will he be getting the ball the way that he wants? And, all these moves are great in the offseason and in the preseason when no one's playing games, no one's losing games, no one's experiencing adversity. Once the adversity sets in, that's how we see whether or not people react in a desirable way to the situation. All right, you've been to Philadelphia. You talked to Jalen Hurts. Let's play a little of Jalen's conversation with Peter King from earlier in the week.
Like I said the other day, I really embracing the idea of being I've always been a unique player, but embracing the rarity of being a true triple threat, and being able to do all of the things that the quarterback position requires. So I just want to continue developing those 3 areas of my game, be the best leader I can be, and that goes a long way as well.
Triple threat: throwing, running, leading.
Throwing, running, your mind.
Yeah.
There's a long time they told me, they said guys like me couldn't think or couldn't process, so trying to put that to sleep.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, the triple threat quarterback was in electric football. The triple threat quarterback was electric football, the run, the pass, and the kick. Remember that big, awkward, white plastic piece that you had to use? So I like and always have liked Jalen Hurts' demeanor, attitude, leadership, love of the game, determination. He's not resting on any laurels. He's not content to be where he is, and he's going to have a fire, I think, Peter, even stronger than he had last year because they got so close to the top of the mountain. He's going to want to get back there sooner than later.
I thought the most interesting thing I learned in Philadelphia, and this is from Nick Sirianni. He said to me that when I sit in the quarterback room now, it's like I'm sitting in a coach's meeting. He said, Jalen Hurts is so advanced right now in our offense and in not only, soaking in our offense and in all the adjustments we're doing this year. But he said he talks like a coach. He understands like a coach. And right now, I think one of the things, and I have to tell you, Nick Sirianni was really, what's the right? I mean, look, everybody is optimistic this time of year. Nick Sirianni is just so happy that Jalen Hurts is his quarterback because he brings everything from that meeting room and everything that his team needs from him as a leader, as somebody who makes adjustments at the line of scrimmage, and obviously as a runner and a thrower, he brings that into a game. And look, I know that teams that lose Super Bowls never go back. What is it? One in the last 25 years or something like that. I mean, as I sit here right now, just a week plus into my training camp trip, hard for me to imagine that I'm not picking the Eagles to go back.
Yeah, the Patriots did it from 52 to 53. Before that, I think it was the Dolphins, after losing to the Cowboys, went back and won it the following year. So it does not happen very often. Speaking of the Dolphins, and Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts always kind of joined at the hip from their time at Alabama. Yeah. Tua takes over for Jalen. Jalen transfers. You were at Dolphins training camp. What's your assessment on this new Tua? And he's supposedly put on some muscle, and he's more careful, and he's ready to take that next step. What did you see from him when you visited camp?
It's a great line from Mike McDaniel to me yesterday about Tua. And he goes, Teddy Bridgewater was telling me this, and I never really thought of it. But he said, we ask quarterbacks in the NFL to not get hit through the offseason. So you get no physical contact, essentially, for 7 months. And then you're asked on opening day to play in a game when they're trying to take your head off. So he said it's like going 0 to 60, in a matter of seconds. And his whole point was, I don't like that. Chris Greer, the GM, they didn't like it. They met with Tua this offseason, and they designed a little bit of a program so that he is going to, for instance, learn how to fall a little bit better, doing jujitsu, doing yoga, flexibility, movement skills, getting battered a little bit, not in the head. And then also, obviously, Mike, the other thing that I think is going to pay dividends for him is the new helmet. Visus and the NFL have been working on this helmet. Visus, a helmet manufacturer out in Seattle. They have been working on a position-specific helmet for quarterbacks. I talked to Tagovailoa yesterday, and he's going to wear the helmet. He said it's actually a little bit lighter than the other helmet that he was wearing, and he's going to see how it goes. He's not married to it. He's not positive how long he'll do it, but he wants to do everything humanly possible, to try to get him to stay on the field. Because, Mike, just remember this, for all the Tuanon people and everybody who just anytime you say anything remotely negative about Tua Tagovailoa, the bottom line is this. In the 2 years that he's been the no-doubt starter, he's played 13 of 17 games. He's missed 4 games each year. So, there's no gray area. You got to learn how to play 16 or 17 games. That is what the great players do. The consistently great players, they're there every week. Now, you can say, well, the Dolphins upgraded. They got Mike White, who I think is a nice backup. But they don't want Mike White to play. They want Tua to play every Sunday.
And as they're doing all these things to shore up Tua and protect him against the aftermath of contact, hopefully they're also doing everything they can to get him to just get rid of the ball. Just don't put yourself in a position where you have to fall a certain way or you need a special helmet. You're not getting hit. The ball is out and they pull up and you automatically go to the next play. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.